I'm Mr. White Christmas. I'm Mr. Snow. I'm Mr. Icicle. I'm Mr. Tender.
When Hollywood execs and average moviegoers think of Mr. Freeze, the first thing that comes to their mind is this, while the vast minority of us think of this.
The snow is beautiful, don't you think? Clean, uncompromising,
and cold.
Think of it, Batman. To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold. Oh yes, I'd kill for that. Let's go.
8 years ago, an artist by the name of Renan Sanchez blessed the world with an art piece titled The Man-Bat Encounter. It's a picture I go back to a lot, and it made me yearn for a live-action Batman world, where the grounded and fantastical became one, and was a concept that could be taken seriously. It was the Batman that I wanted to see one day, and fast forward to the Batman in 2022, and this picture comes back to mind, because the aesthetics all matched. And I could see Robert Pattinson's Batman going toe-to-toe with a more fantastical villain like Man-Bat, while still having that grounded anchor. But once again, for some reason, in a post-Nolan world where we already had that groundedness of Batman, the powers that be over at Warner Brothers still feel the need to shy away from the rest of Batman's world.
You are not welcome here.
I'm not here to fight you, Croc. Let me pass.
Your scent is different. I smell death on you. I don't need to fight you, Batman. I just need to wait, and then I will feed on your corpse.
In the science fiction documentary called Watch the Skies, which is about sci-fi movies in the 1950s, there was one specific quote that always stood out to me, where they say that what made those films interesting was that while yes, all of this extreme and crazy stuff was happening around this cast of characters, the characters themselves were all taking it seriously. And maybe it's because I grew up with monsters that I take them seriously and understand their pain and their plight, and what they can be used for when it comes to metaphors about society.
The movie industry is caught up in this idea of dark and gritty as like the only way to present certain characters, because I think they think the audience, the mainstream, non-niche audience, they think that's the only way that they can latch on to these characters.
Yeah, that's because I noticed that an argument that would always come up is that, well, it's crazy enough that we have to buy a man dressing up as a bat. So that's as far as we can push the concept. So he can't be someone who dresses up as a bat and fights someone like Clayface. He has to be someone who dresses up as a bat, and the closest we can get to someone fantastical is another villain who also dresses up like a something.
That's true.
But
also,
it stays that way.
There's that, and there's also another factor as to why I think the Batman movies veer away from approaching certain heroes or certain villains. I'm sorry,
heroes too. If you want to go.
Well, no, I think it's because of the sex appeal of mental illness, where like a lot of like the Tim Burton movies really hammered home like the idea of like the Bat villains being these eccentric mental illness patients. Selina Kyle, the Penguin, the Joker, even Jim Carrey's Riddler. They're all mental, like, you know, they're mentally based characters. And like when you deal with characters like Clayface and Mr. Freeze, who is also kind of a mental character but more elemental because it's ice, it's clay. Man-Bat, that's an animal, that's elemental, that's more naturalistic.
Killer Croc,
yeah. I think they think by veering into those characters, it will change the dark urban aesthetic of Batman and make Batman into something that audiences are not familiar with.
So, do I want an an 8-foot tall Southern Killer Croc trying to flood Gotham City like on the Batman.
Boys, I'm a whole different breed of animal.
No, but I do love that version. But Batman means different things to different people. But for the film side of things, he's always seemed to mean one thing. And that version has populated the cultural zeitgeist for a very long time. But what I want is a world where the next Batman, maybe 10, 15 years after Robert Pattinson's trilogy is finished up, within that 10 years, of course, you can have a drama-heavy detective story. Something that can still be given merit, even if he so happens to take on a mafia zombie or a talking clay monster. And maybe one day we'll have a dark Batman film where he can face off against an outlandish cast of characters and still be seen as a noteworthy film. Because for me, at the end of the day, a good story is a good story.
I failed you. I wish there were another way for me to say it. I cannot. I can only beg your forgiveness and pray you'll hear me somehow. Someplace where a warm hand waits for mine.